Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Stories That Inspire Us / the author series. I am so excited to interview my guest today. My name is Janice, the host of Stories, and today I want to welcome my amazing guest, Linda Gunter. But first, I want to show you her book, which is, when I read, I just like, oh my God, I have to, go through a whole thing of sticky notes and tag some important things.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's a lot of sticky notes.
That's a lot of sticky notes. Yes, it is. Linda, you are an Amazon bestselling author and the founder of Love Him, Love Them, Choir of Angels, How 30 Orphans Changed Their World. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, right? And I can't get over all those sticky notes. I want you to send it back to me with all the notes in there.
Oh,
that's exciting. Yeah.
It is very exciting. And, what I love about your book, obviously the story behind the story, is what was some things like this whole book sticks out to me. And then there's things where you read something on the book or within the book. And this happened to be on the back of your book where it says, giving hope to a nation by empowering the youth. Some people watch the news, others make the news. Linda, you are that person that has made the news. How did all of this get started for you?
Wow. So how did this all get started? Oh my goodness. I was a real estate investor. And I think that whole story is in our first book, which is called Peanut Butter Crackers and Flip Flops. So if you want all the details of that, you can get that book to find out. But I'll tell you this, none of it was my idea. And none of it was anything I wanted to do. I'm doing absolutely, matter of fact, the complete opposite of anything I wanted to do. My husband and I, on our very first date, which he tells everybody, I can't believe she was talking about kids on our very first date. But we were in this really nice restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Embassy Suites Hotel, white tablecloths and candlelight. And this like 7, 8, 9-year-old little girl goes running through the restaurant with a naked Barbie doll shaking it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I looked at him and I said, I don't know about you, but I don't want any of them. And we literally shook hands across the table on our very first date that we would never have any children. And here we are today. I'm known as Mommy Linda, and we're responsible for over 5,000 children. If you don't think God just sat back and laughed whenever he saw us making that deal, I'm sure he did.
And, God works in mysterious ways. And once you, as you know, Linda, once you put that out in the universe, so shall you receive. And you did.
Oh, what a interesting thing. So I was a real estate investor, and my husband and I, we could have been the Chip and Joanna Gaines. We were Chip and Joanna Gaines before there was a Chip and Joanna Gaines, right? We were flipping houses and buying properties in Atlanta and had rental property. And actually, the way everything started was one day a lady came up to one of the houses that we were renovating and had everything she owned in a grocery cart and asked me if she could stay at the house. And I said, no, I said, we're renovating it. It's not ready yet. You can't stay here yet. She was like, well, I don't have any place to live. I'm homeless. And I was like, well, you need to go to a homeless shelter because this is not a homeless shelter. I'm a for-profit business, right? And very long story short, she told me they were all full. I ended up calling the dispatcher at the homeless places and they said they were full. And I asked the lady, I was like, what am I supposed to do with this chick? She's standing in front of me with a grocery cart full of all of her belongings. And the lady on the phone answered back to me and said, I don't know. I guess maybe you should open a homeless shelter. And I thought that is the most ridiculous answer I've ever had in my life. Slammed my phone down, my BlackBerry back in the day. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We ended up turning that property into a homeless shelter. And it was basically my husband, my family, our friends, my mother-in-law handmade the curtains. And we had the most posh homeless shelter in Vine City, Atlanta, which is the 5th worst crime-ridden neighborhood in America. Prostitutes, drug dealers, just a hot mess. But and the outings for our homeless shelter were jet ski trips on the lake, right? That we had a list a mile long to get into the shelter. And one of my friends that, again, you'll have to read our first book to see how God made a divine appointment for us to meet. Had 35 seconds would have made the difference in us not meeting. Ended up helping me at that shelter. She was a mortgage broker. And so we were running ladies through our shelter, giving them Jesus, jobs. And then when we were done, we had all these houses, so we could literally rent them a house or owner finance them a house. And she ended up being my very best friend. And through a set of extremely strange circumstances, she ended up with her own 5 children. And she was Haitian. I didn't know she was Haitian. I just thought she was Black. I never realized the whole history of where she was from or how that happened. But she is the reason that we are doing what we're doing today from a very strange set of circumstances.
And again, that goes back to the mysterious ways of being in that moment at that time. That was no coincidence. That was meant to happen.
Yeah, us meeting, I mean, really and truly was unbelievable. Had I stopped to get a Diet Coke or go to the bathroom, literally we would have missed each other. It was an actual rental property meeting. It was crazy. But a very sad thing happened to her. And in 2004, her husband took an AK-47 and ended up killing her. And then he turned around and picked up a knife and he killed her mother. And those 5 children that she had, basically in 5 minutes, they lost their mom and their dad and their grandmother. And here in Georgia, I'm not sure where you are. Here in Georgia, we have what's called defects. They basically fell through. This was on October the 30th. We're right around the corner of the anniversary of that. But they fell through the cracks and happened on a Saturday morning. And they ended up in New York living with my friend's dad by Sunday afternoon. And he was 78 years old. I don't know if you can imagine being 78 and taking in 5 kids. I'd only met him twice, once at an event here, and then I went up for the double funeral. But he called me one day and basically said, Linda, I found out I was terminally ill and I can't care for the kids. And he said, so you're my last phone call. I've reached out to everybody else. Nobody wants all 5 kids. And if you don't take them, I'm going to have to split them up and put them in foster care. And I said, dude, you picked the wrong chick for your last phone call. Because, I made a deal with my husband on my first date. I ain't having any kids. I don't like kids. I don't want kids. And what in the world do you think I'm going to do with 5 Haitian kids? Right? I can't do that. And my husband overheard the call and gently reminded me of a verse in the Bible, James 1:27, which says, real religion that God himself considers pure and faultless is to care for the widows and the orphans who are in a hot mess. So on the 17th day of the 7th month of the year 2007, the family living in my house in Gumlog, Georgia, went to the size of 7 with children the ages of 7 to 17. And that is how we became involved with the country of Haiti.
Wow. I am blown away by that. Thank you so much for sharing that very detailed information. And my heart goes out to, I just can't even fathom something like that happening. And yet it has happened. But through that experience, I'm assuming that's where love him, love them kind of came into play and really developed through such a meaningful relationship with Haiti.
So that sounds so nice and good, and we can say it that way, but usually everything that happens with our lives is because I get mad about something. And so I was mad about taking in these 5 kids, and I didn't think they were very grateful to me for what I had done. I had saved them from all this trouble and kept them from being deported. And so in 2011, I decided that instead of us having a Christmas like we always did, where everybody sat around for hours and hours opening gifts, that we were going to take them back to Haiti. And I was going to show them what I had saved them from, right? And then they were going to come back and they were going to be so grateful to me, right? So 2011, which happened to be the year after the devastating earthquake in the country of Haiti, we got on a plane, went to Haiti, and nothing that I wanted to have happen happened, but instead God completely wrecked my world. And I saw things I had never seen, and I experienced things I had never experienced before. And when I came back from that trip, one of the things that I decided was 30 children that I met, which are the 30 children, if you look on the back of the book,
Yeah.
they sang for me on Christmas Day. They sang for me with no running water, no electricity. They were in a building that was completely disheveled. There was still a river running through it that was damaged from the earthquake. And I could not comprehend what I was seeing. I didn't understand. I thought maybe there was such joy in their lives, and yet their circumstances didn't match their, they had no material things to be grateful for. They had lost their families in the earthquake. That's why they were there. And I couldn't make my mind get wrapped around why they were so happy. And I literally left that orphanage in that country with a new mindset, because I felt like Jesus Christ himself said, Linda, that's the joy of the Lord. And girlfriend, you ain't got it. Your joy comes when everything goes the way you want it to and how you want it to. And I made a commitment that day when I left that makeshift orphanage. And I said, you know what? People in the United States need to meet these kids. And I told the guy that brought us there, I said, you're probably not going to believe this, but everybody I know in the US, they have everything they need. Most of my friends have everything they want, but they're not happy. They don't have any joy. And he said, oh, Mommy Linda, every American I bring here, they say the same thing. So I decided on that trip that I was going to figure out a way to get those kids to America. I had no idea what that meant. And that's a lot of what the story of the Choir of Angels in the book before talks about, because you don't just do that. To bring somebody from another country, prior to what's going on now, you had to have a visa. And before you can get a visa, you have to have a passport. Before you get a passport, you have to have a birth certificate. Before you have a birth certificate, you have to know when your birthday is, right? And these kids, literally, they were the only members of their family pulled out from underneath the rubble of an earthquake. They didn't know when their birthdays were. And the entire administration in that country had gone kaplunk from it's not like you could run down to the courthouse. So that's the level we started at with this project, that everywhere I reached out told me, Linda, this will never happen. Because there's a lot of organizations raising a lot of money for the country of Haiti. I reached out to all of them. I had no desire to actually do it myself. And I thought, one of them would jump on it, and they all were like, you're nuts. If you think the Haitian government and the United States government are going to work together for you to bring an entire orphanage from Haiti to the US, that's not going to happen.
And I'm getting the chills as you describe that.
Yeah.
It did happen.
It did happen in 2016. Well, I figured out the way to make things happen. There's a verse in John 15 that says, ask, you remain in me, I'll remain in you. Ask whatever you wish and I'll give it to you. And also there's many times where the Bible says, I need you to come to me like little children. There's nowhere in the Bible that it says, come to me like a bitter old woman who's mad and angry and sits in church on the back row and complains. It doesn't say that. It says, come to me like the little children. So I told the kids on about my third trip back, I said, you know what? I think the angle here is not to reach out to another organization. I think it's for you to just ask God. And so that's what happened. And doors began to open. And in 2016, those 30 kids got on a Delta flight with me, came to America. We had $120 in our bank account. I had no idea what I was doing. I had gotten my CDL license because we needed a bus and a bus driver, and nobody would volunteer to drive the bus. So I crawled underneath the bus. My husband could not believe I did that. And so we sang from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, all the way up to the White House. And we did that 3 different tours, 3 different times we got visas for performance visas. And the really exciting thing, Janice, today, so when we went back to Haiti, we got them out of that makeshift orphanage. They ended up with a computer lab. They had everything they wanted, everything they needed, all of their 3 meals a day. And fast forward to today, we have 6 locations in the country of Haiti. We're responsible for 5,000 children. And in the middle of a global pandemic, when everybody shut down and stopped doing everything, We opened a hospital in the middle of nowhere in the country of Haiti, which hasn't been done in years. Everyone I've ever met in Haiti was like, every hospital we have has been here like forever. I don't know anybody that's opened a hospital. So yeah. And probably the thing I am the most proud of is that 22 of those 30 children got the opportunity to stay here in the United States of America. They are here on F1 student visas, attending school. They're up and down the East Coast with different host families. And we have them from 5th grade all the way up to juniors in college. Those are those 30 children that I met Christmas 2011, who brought me joy. And now I've been able to return that to them.
That is absolutely fascinating because, you know, you would mention that when you first went over there that Christmas Day, that, you know, here they are in the midst of these ruins with a river running through, yet they had joy. And then you looked at maybe, you know, everyone else that you knew, friends, family, whatever, they had everything that they needed, and then some, but didn't have joy.
Right. Yeah, even to this day, I was just at a restaurant with somebody yesterday, not to mention any names, but I mean, even arguing about salad dressing, right? You know, sometimes people will get the wrong salad dressing and they go off the end. I mean, and even I shared with you a little bit before we started today, the country of Haiti is currently on lockdown. We've been on lockdown for 5 weeks. It's not on the national news. You don't know anything about it, but we've been under gang control since last July 7th, when the president was assassinated. So what we deal with and the things that we think are so horrific here in America, you know, we get the wrong size at Starbucks or the wrong salad dressing. I mean, we just don't know. The Bible talks over and over about how we're to endure, how we're to overcome, how we're to persevere. And so we are going to have problems in this world. We're told that, and he continuously tells us how to overcome it. And that's what Choir of Angels is about. You know, if you're listening today and you are in a situation where you need to overcome, there's no one better to learn from than from 30 children. The title on the front or the back, you says that how 30 orphans changed their world forever. And the truth of the matter is, they'll change your world when you read this book, because this book shares the unbelievable. It's kind of like what happens in LA stays in LA. This is like what happened on the bus, stayed on the bus until we were done with our 3 tours. And now we've come out with all of the unbelievable stories, miracles, manifestations, the things that happened during that 3-year tour. And I'm telling you, the majority of the people that get the book will call me within 6 hours and say, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop because I wanted to know what was going to happen next, And I get that because I lived it, right? So I can promise that not only will your faith be increased, because that's my prayer, is that your faith is increased as much by reading these stories as mine was by living them out.
And live them out, you did. I mean, you know, I'm going to, is it okay to reference one of the?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
I was reading about Bianca, of course.
Oh, yes.
And it kind of reminded me, like, I felt like I was there in that moment in the bus, maybe sitting behind you as you're driving, and all this transpiring. And I thought, oh my God, like, what the flipping.
You got that right. Woo! I'm with you, girl. Yeah. So, okay. So let's just talk about that. So a lot of things happened on that choir tour that were really, really strange that I completely had no idea about and didn't understand, that I thought were medical conditions. And so for the entire first year, when people would pass out or when people would be flipping on the floor or looking as though they were in the middle of a grand mal seizure, what do? You reach out to a neurologist, you reach out to the medical community. And everywhere we went, for every single strange thing that happened, all I kept getting was, there's nothing medically wrong with them. There's nothing medically wrong with them. And I'm like, how can you tell me that? Because I'm sitting here watching, there's something wrong with them. And so that caused me to have to reach out to what if it's there's nothing medically wrong. I mean, and not we didn't just go to one neurologist, we went to multiple because I couldn't figure it out. And the musicians who were on tour with us were not from, well, two of them were from the orphanage, but they were older guys. And every time we would have something extremely strange happen that appeared to be a medical problem, they would come up to me and they would say, Mommy Linda, you know, this is not a medical problem, right? And I was like, what do you mean? This is voodoo. And I was like, you are an alien, because that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And what are you talking about? Voodoo. And so finally one day, after we had reached out to so many different avenues, they sat down with me, the older boys, and they said, Mommy Linda, I don't think you understand this, but before we left Haiti, the voodoo people came to the orphanage and they told us that they had just learned new spells and that they were now able to astral project. They were not happy about the fact that these kids were getting to come to America and they weren't. And they were really unhappy about the fact that you were bringing these kids to America to talk about Jesus. And so they promised that they were going to ruin the tour. And I said, that's stupid. Just kept arguing back. I was like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And I don't know who voodoo people are. And I don't know what voodoo is. And they were like, that's why you can't find an answer. When these girls are throwing grown men up against the wall, when you see children that are levitating in the air, they're like, this is a spiritual problem. It's not medical. Now, I'm going to be real honest with you, Janice. I mean, I finally got to a point where I couldn't get medical help. So I thought, okay, fine. So I started Googling, how do you deal with demonic manifestations? And everybody I found that has anything to do with casting out demons, I mean, this is just frank, they all look really weird to me. They just looked strange. And I was like, I'm not listening to that. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not hanging with that. And so you'll have to read the book to see exactly what really happened. But Mommy Linda found the answer. Mommy Linda, I now know exactly how to deal with the evil world that is actually, you know what's really weird? All the answers are in the Bible. The same Bible that I read. I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. My dad was the music director. My mom played the piano, which was interesting when they had a fight because she would play a different song just to get back at her.
Oh my God.
Today's my mom's 85th birthday. As soon as we're done, I'm taking her out for a really nice lunch. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to fight back. And so that's a lot of what Choir of Angels is about. And the particular story you're telling about Bianca, I'm going to share just a little bit about that just because it's so stinking funny. One of the youngest, I told you I was the bus driver, and one of the youngest girls on the bus, this was our second choir tour, I think, after I had become familiar with how to do things and what to do when things happen. And so we were on our way back from in Dawsonville, Georgia. We were on our way back from a concert. It was really late at night and I was driving. And I just wanted to get back to the choir house and get rid of the kids so I could get back home. And all of a sudden, one of the choir moms comes running up and says, our code word was, we had four or five children in the choir that would manifest. And so the code word was, Mommy Linda, so-and-so is sick. And this particular one you're talking about was Bianca. So the choir mom came running up and she was like, Linda, she goes, Bianca's sick. She goes, not only is she sick, she's floating above one of the seats in the back of the bus. And I was like, do what? And I'm driving and I have this little mirror. I'm trying to look back there to see, but I can't see anything. And I was like, just go back there and pray. I said, you know what to do. And this choir mom's name was Elena. She said, Linda, we've been praying for like 35 minutes. She goes, the musicians are back there. They're having to hold her down. And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. So I whip into to a First Baptist church parking lot in a very well-known town in Georgia. And it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night, right? Everything's dark. And the little kids from the choir sat up there close to me. So Seema, Majim, Rolanda, Zachary, they're all up there in the front row with me. And so I have to crawl over the seats to get to the back of the bus. So I go back there and sure enough, Bianca is above the seats, levitating in the air. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I lay my hands on her. Mark 16:17 says, for those of us who believe we can lay our hands on the sick and they'll be healed. And I begin to pray. And all of a sudden I feel a tugging on my, I had on my Love Him, Love Them t-shirt. I feel a tugging on my shirt and I'm like, I'm kind of busy. What in the world's going on? And I turn around and it's Seema. And Seema, I think at that point was maybe 6. And she looks up and I keep praying and nothing's happening with Bianca. Nothing's happening with Bianca. They've been praying for her for an hour. And Seema goes, Mommy Linda. And I'm like, I turn around and part of me wants to smack her. And the other part of me is like, what in the world? But I look at her face and her face is so intense. And she's like, Mommy Linda, you keep telling that demon to go, but you didn't open the door of the bus. I was like, oh my goodness, Seema, are you serious? And even then I was like, this girl has lost her mind. But I couldn't yell at her because she was really serious about it, right? She goes, you need to go open the door. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? So I said, you know what, whatever. So I walk back up. Seema sits back down. Now listen, Janice, they're so used to these insane manifestations. These little kids, literally, they're sitting there coloring. I mean, things can be flying all over the place, people flipping all over the floor, growling coming out of people's mouths, and they literally will just sit there and color. So she had sat back down to color. I went up. That particular bus, you just pushed a button to open the door. I opened the door. I walked back. Now, this is after an hour and 15 minutes of us trying to get this to stop. I walked back, lay my hands on Bianca. I don't even think I got the words out of my mouth, and she dropped to the seat. And Elena was like, really? And I said, I have no idea. So I turned around to go back up and I had to pass Seema on the way. Seema looks up at me and she was like, good job, Mommy Linda. Next time, don't forget to open the door.
Oh my God.
Right back to coloring. And I just went up and got in my seat and we drove off and we made it back to the choir house. But that's just a very quick snippet of some of the unbelievable situations that happened on that tour.
And really, they are truly unbelievable situations. And, the other thing that also I was so amazed at is you show a before picture, before Jesus picture with a certain someone.
Oh, with Jeremy?
Yes.
The voodoo priest? Yeah.
And then an after picture. And as I was reading, I had to read it over and over, and I'm looking at the pictures and such a stark difference in those photos.
Within what, 30 minutes? That was all the same day. You can see because you can still see the powder on his face. Yeah. So we finally got to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem was this very, very powerful head voodoo priest who happened to be related to several of the girls in the choir. And so these girls had been raised up to take over this ministry. And we didn't know all of this. And I didn't find out until the third tour. And so when I finally went back, I don't know if you were able to read the story of how when I finally found out that he was the source of it, I said that I wanted to meet with him, and everybody was like, oh, no. The pastors won't even go and meet with this guy. He's so powerful. He's so influential. I mean, he can turn you into an animal. He can do whatever. And I said, oh, you don't know who he's messing with, because Mommy Linda's fixing to come and take. I was just so mad. I was tired. I had, just being on a tour with 30 children up and down the East Coast in and of itself with no problems is tiring. But I was not only fighting, I was fighting Satan. I was in a spiritual war. And the reason I was in such a spiritual war was because the same way that my life was completely changed when I left Haiti, that's what was happening every night. Every concert we had, people's lives were wrecked. I mean, it was like a reverse mission trip. People thought they were coming to see a bunch of little kids sing. And yet when we shared the story and the kids went out and prayed for them, miracles were happening. I mean, we had alcoholics that when one of these little kids would, and the people couldn't even understand what they were praying because they were praying in Creole. But we literally had one guy had been an alcoholic for 17 years. Christopher went out and prayed with him that he never had a drink again after that night. I mean, he became a groupie and was following the tour. We had marriages restored. We had finances. I mean, we just had lives that were changing. And so I was in a war with Satan. He wanted me to quit. And I almost did.
Because against all odds, it's like that evil force you were fighting against all odds, yet you defied them.
I almost quit several times. And so to be honest with you, my intentions when I went back to talk with that voodoo priest, it wasn't with the love of Jesus and that I wanted to, change his heart and his life. I wanted to kill him. I mean, that was my attitude, was I'm coming back and I'm going to give him a what for. And, he better realize what he's done. And, he can't, if he's really related to these kids and blah, 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 blah. That was my attitude. And yet on the plane on the way back, and I ended up on that trip going by myself with all 30 kids. Usually I had interns or somebody with me. I think we had missed a plane or something, but I was the only one going back. And so when I finally met with him, and you'll have to read the book to see what happens, but suffice it to say this, October the 2nd, which was last Sunday, he's now a leader in one of our churches. And he has been extremely instrumental in us taking back the country of Haiti, which is what we're in the process of doing right now with the power of God's word. So who better to fight against the evil than someone who used to be the head of evil? And we now have him on our team.
Absolutely fascinating. I want to read something else that's on the front of the book, because I think it's very poignant and very beautiful. Angels is a celebration of family in the hope that binds us together. Gunter is a true maestro of the heart. And that was written by Mark Victor Hansen, #1 New York Times Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's pretty significant, very beautiful and very poignant.
Yeah, very, very nice of him to do that. And again, people give me credit for things, and I just sort of sit back and laugh, because most everything I do is just because I'm mad about something. I wish I could say that I was quick to obey, even when I didn't fully understand. And that is the way I try to live my life now, that when I hear the Holy Spirit tell me to do something or call someone or reach out to someone, I was at the Georgia game last week and I heard the Holy Spirit very clearly say, that girl behind you needs prayer. You need to go over there and talk to her. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's a Georgia game. I'm not going to do that right now. And so I wasn't able to watch the game until I did. So I walked over, and as soon as I asked her if I could pray for her, tears just streamed down her face. And it's just that we have such a connection for those of us who are believing believers. There's a lot of people who say they believe, but their actions, just like the Bible say, your actions show what you really believe. And I just think for those of us who truly believe, it's really kind of silly for us not. It amazes me how often we listen to the demonic voices. You're not good enough. You're not worthy. You can't do that. And yet when the Holy Spirit speaks to us and asks us to do something or reminds us of something, for whatever reason, we don't want to listen and obey that. And I don't know why. So my goal is to be quick to obey, kind of the way we want our kids, right? We want our kids to do what we tell them to do when we tell them to do it, even if they don't know why we've told them to do it. But I want to be quick to obey the Holy Spirit's voice, even when I don't fully understand. And that's hard. It's hard.
Life is hard, and just absolutely amazing. I do want to it's a kind of side bar for a second, and just to welcome again all of our listeners on the Wisdom Audio app. I so thank you for your time today and being here, and I see a lot of familiar names, so thank you so much. We have time for just one person to maybe come up. Sure. And contribute to the conversation, or maybe you have a question for Mommy Linda. This is an absolutely fascinating book, and I haven't been able to put it down. I'm a firm believer in this book, even more so in the fact of believing believers. You have to get this book. That's all I have to say. It's that good, and then some. And of course, I will make sure that the link is up on my Truly Your VA website, so you can look there at the end of the day and click on the blog link, which will lead you to the Stories That Inspire Us podcast, with all of Linda's information. Linda, how can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
So everything we do is love him, love them, right? Which my husband says is the Bible in one sentence. So lovehimlovethem.org is our website. On social media, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, and I think all the places as Love Him, Love Them. If you want to email me, it's Linda@lovehimlovethem, or you can do that also through the website. You can get the Choir of Angels book through the website. I want to tell you, because Christmas is right around the corner, we have a Beauty for Ashes jewelry line. My necklace is made out of trash from our girls in Haiti. I have over 200 ladies that are in our Beauty for Ashes jewelry line. We have bracelets, we have charm bracelets, we have earrings. But what I'm really, really excited about is Stephanie, who runs our Beauty for Ashes jewelry line, just came up with these amazing Christmas ornaments, snowflakes and crosses and Star of Bethlehem. I love the cross, and people were always like, why are you doing a cross for Christmas? But it's because it's Jesus's birthday, and that's all about Jesus. So I'd love for you to go on the website, get a Christmas ornament that would make, or a necklace or a bracelet. Our bracelets now have charms on them that say love him, love them, which it bothers me because every now and then it hits up against me and I look down and I'll go, I know I need to love him and love them. God continues to bring thems in our lives, right? That if we don't love him, we can't love them. So yeah, everything is love him, love them.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do the sign off on wisdom. Again, want to thank all of our listeners. Please go and look at her book and download it. Or you can, of course, order the book itself. I love having a book in my hands. Thank you so much for being here today. And if you have a story to share, it's that important. That means you need to create your magic and reach out to them, whoever them is for you. That means somebody needs to hear your story. They need to be inspired. Thank you so much, Wisdom. And then we'll do our formal sign off on the Stories That Inspire Us Facebook page. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Hey, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for being here today. I also want to thank my amazing guest, Linda Gunter, founder, Love Him, Love Them. And make sure when you order this book on Amazon, get yourself some stickies because you're going to need them. Linda, thank you so much for being my amazing guest today. And I hope that you would definitely consider coming back very soon.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Bye for now. And remember, your story is that important. Someone needs to hear it and be inspired. My name is Janice, the host of Stories That Inspire Us. Today, I was truly inspired by Linda, her message, and the Choir of Angels. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye for now.